Hello, today is Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. Here is your daily signal. According to Fortune, nuclear negotiations between the U.S. and Iran have paused after President Trump issued a public threat of military action, prompting Iranian officials to declare talks in a difficult phase. Background: U.S.-Iran tensions have escalated since the U.S. withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. Iran remains a major global oil supplier, exporting nearly 1.4 million barrels per day according to the International Energy Agency, and the strategic Strait of Hormuz still sees close to 20% of global oil traffic. Periodic sanctions and military incidents, including flashpoints at Hormuz, have disrupted both energy markets and diplomatic efforts. Key numbers show that U.S. and allied naval forces expanded their patrols in the strait on June 23 after new Iranian naval maneuvers, and oil prices rose 3% to $87 per barrel as Iran threatened commercial shipping in the Persian Gulf. The U.S. Embassy in Riyadh has issued heightened security alerts for diplomatic staff, citing increased regional risks. Near-term, energy price volatility could impact industrial consumers worldwide, while diplomatic personnel in the Gulf face elevated security risks. Medium-term, continued tensions may push countries to diversify their energy supply chains, but a single miscalculation or conflict could disrupt up to 20% of the world's oil flow through Hormuz, severely affecting global supply. Next, we turn to the Russia-Ukraine front. Turning to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Fortune reports that Russia-occupied Crimea has suspended gasoline sales to civilians after Ukrainian attacks on fuel supplies triggered the region's worst energy crisis since its annexation in 2014. Background: the Russia-Ukraine war, sparked by Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, was escalated in 2022, with energy infrastructure and drone warfare playing the central role as both sides target power grids and oil depots. Civilians across Ukraine now face frequent power outages, injuries, and forced evacuations. State energy companies like Ukrenergo and Gazprom are at the heart of these infrastructure battles, with international bodies like the UN and NATO shaping humanitarian and military responses. Key facts: on June 24, fresh Russian drone strikes hit power substations in Kharkiv and Dnipro, causing widespread blackouts, as confirmed by the BBC. The New York Times reports at least 200,000 civilians are without power in eastern Ukraine after a coordinated bombing, while Reuters notes that 18 of 22 Russian drones were down, though debris injured 7 people in Zaporizhia. The use of drones has also expanded. Ukraine now deploys them not only for attack but for supply runs, indicating the escalating danger on the front lines. The consequences are immediate and profound. Millions may be left without reliable power ahead of winter. Escalation in drone warfare could increase civilian casualties and hamper emergency response efforts. Rising infrastructure damage may trigger more sanctions and military aid to Ukraine, and medium-term risks include destabilized European energy markets and new displacement pressures as residents flee violence. Now, let's examine how drone warfare is reshaping military strategy worldwide. Modern warfare is being transformed by drones, as next big future highlights, with layered defensive systems and drone walls now recreating a version of trench attrition warfare that makes large-scale land capture increasingly costly and difficult. Background: since the early 2010s, drone warfare has found a place in conflicts like Ukraine and Syria, and layered defensive systems now integrate ground-based air defenses, electronic warfare, and anti-drone tech to counter aerial threats. The rapid growth of low-cost, high-effectiveness drones is changing battlefield tactics and shifting toward decentralization and agility. Defense companies such as Baykar, Northrop Grumman, and Elbit Systems are leading the development of both drones and anti-drone systems, while institutions from the U.S. and Russia to Ukraine actively adapt their strategies. News facts: on June 23, Ukraine rolled out new electronic warfare suites for layered defense against Russian drone swarms, according to Defense News. Reuters reports that on June 24, Israel successfully intercepted a coordinated drone attack using Iron Dome and David's Sling systems. Meanwhile, Military Times notes that the U.S. Army is now testing Paladin, a multi-layer defense suite that combines anti-drone lasers and radar. Looking ahead, we can expect a rapid increase in the adoption of electronic warfare and anti-drone measures, with defense companies accelerating development cycles and procurement timelines. Tactical doctrine is evolving especially quickly in regions like the Middle East and Eastern Europe, and nations are likely to invest heavily in both offensive and defensive unmanned platforms, which could spur new alliances built around drone technology. Civilian infrastructure may face new risks as layered defenses move into urban areas, raising concerns about collateral damage. Now, onto the markets. International markets were mostly lower, with Italy falling about 1.7% as EWI led declines and Spain showing a modest positive trend over the month. Germany, represented by EWG and EWD, dropped, with EWD down nearly 2.8%, marking the sharper move among European peers, while Chile was notably weak today. Commodities moved broadly lower as gold eased by about 1.9% and silver tumbled over 5% for the day, making silver the biggest percentage decliner among major metals. U.S. oil also struggled, retreating close to 1.3%, and lithium suffered a sharp drop of roughly 5%. In the favorites group, Axon was the standout gainer, rising over 5.6%, but ARM slid more than 10% for the day, making ARM the largest daily loser alongside negative moves in Nvidia and Oracle. Adobe rose fractionally, but AMD and Qualcomm both declined, with AMD off nearly 5.8%. In U.S. sectors, S&P 500 fell about 1.45%, and semiconductors slipped almost 7.9%, marking stocks as one of the weakest performers, while healthcare managed a small gain for Roman 45 and real estate advanced on the day. Finance finished nearly flat, while clean energy underperformed, with QCLN down over 6%. That's it for today. You can find more news and details on our website. Goodbye.